It's mellow genius. He just expresses that so beautifully. Thank you. Gosh, I think it was Aldous Huxley who said, next to silence, that which comes closest to expressing the divine is music. So I just felt that, didn't you? It's so good to see everyone. It's welcome. Yes, thanks for seeing me. Welcome those who are watching at home. And you may think I can't see you, but I do. So first of all, put some pants on. And second of all, welcome to being a part of this incredible spiritual community. As many of you know, this isn't just a place where I got to work for 7 years, but this is a place that made me who I am. And I'm so grateful to you. And it's such a special place. There's a depth that we share here because of the rich experiences of life and the hard work at life each of you have brought. That's so important, and there's a special aspect of feeling a part of something bigger than ourselves here that helps us pull through challenges that I don't know if we could survive on our own. And so it's a very special place, and I'm grateful to everyone who keeps this place going, in Seal Beach Center for Spiritual Living and our whole spiritual community that we share that goes beyond these walls, too. So it's so good to be here. My talk title today, Self-Care or Else. It's not really meant to be a threat. Maybe it's a little bit of a warning, but I hope that we can embrace it as a mantra for 2022 in our year. Self-care or else. Will you say it with me? Self-care or else. Have you ever known anyone who couldn't hold down a job, not because they didn't work hard, but because they worked too hard, right? Have any of us ever been that person? Because hard work can lead to success, it can lead to virtue, but it can also lead to overwhelm. It can lead to burnout. It can lead to no longer feeling like we are ourselves. And what I know in my life is, first of all, I'm a busy person. Anyone else here busy? I'm one of the busiest people I know. So this isn't a talk about not being busy, but what I want for each of us is to make a commitment to self-care or else, working ourselves not to death, but to better living every day, no matter how busy we are. And all that being said, I often know that I'm working too hard in that bad way when some of the following occurs, and it may be unique for you. But for me, the first sign that I'm working myself to death and not to richer life is when I'm blaming other people for me not taking care of myself. Anyone ever do that? Hi, Susie. How'd you sneak in? And, April, it's your fault I didn't run 3 times this week. Nancy June, how dare you interrupt my meditation time in the morning? She's 3, so that's why that's funny. But, the great Douglas Adams says, when we blame others, we give up our power to change, our ability to take care of ourselves. Second sign for me is when I start doing unhealthy things to make myself feel healthy. You know what I mean by that? I've done all the following things, but maybe you have too. During the pandemic, found myself at midnight trying to squeeze that last little bit of red wine out of the bag of the box wine. Anyone? Am I the only one who's ever done that? I'm going to watch a little news, and then 5 hours and the same story with people screaming at each other later. I'm out of my head. Forget it. I'm going to eat that ho-ho and that donut and another bowl of ice cream. Have any of us been there? So doing unhealthy things to try to make myself feel healthy and okay. And most importantly for me is I know that I'm working myself to death and not to a better life when I've lost a sense of resonance, a sense of really feeling who I am and connected with life. Resonance, that experience where the inside of our lives matches with the outside, and we feel in connection truly to what's going on. One day during the pandemic, about a year ago exactly, it was a crazy morning. My wife, April, who sends her love, and I know you send your love to her too, she wasn't feeling well that morning, so she had to stay in bed, which meant I had our baby, and we had a lot of important work meetings. They were on Zoom, so everything's okay. And then I also had the job of trying to drag our teenager out of bed so that he could move 2 feet over to the computer for school in the morning. And And it was just a stressful day. And so at one point, I'm in a meeting, and there's an argument going on, and I've got on butterfly wings and a tutu, and we've got some music on the TV, and I'm chasing Nancy around, and it's stressful. And the only way I know how to describe the feeling, I describe it, and maybe you can resonate, as breaking glass. Do you know that feeling? Like the feeling, not the sound, but the feeling, like everything is about to crumble beneath you. And just then we have a Spotify playlist that I made for my wife on the TV, and there's a song that came on by the great artist Tom Petty. And it's called You and Me. Because take a look at what I got. I can't promise you a lot, but you and me and the road ahead. And just then, my little girl pauses, and she looks me right in the eye. And have you ever had that with your kids? I mean, you always see them, they're always beautiful, but there's these moments where you can behold their whole soul, and it's right there, and she's beholding me too. And there's just this connection. Wherever that river flows, wherever that wind may blow, you know I'll be there with you, just you and me, and the road ahead. And in that moment, she holds her hands out, and she grabs my hands, and we have our first official daddy-daughter dance. And here's this moment of grace on this crazy, stressful day. And there's something about the beauty of life that can grab us. It can save us from the clutches of those stressful moments and free our heart and soul. And thank God, because I didn't deserve that moment of grace that day. I was too focused on other things, that the divine grabbed my heart and brought it back into resonance with life around me. And the only other thing to do that is self-care, right? Is to enrich that inner life within us. I love something I read during the pandemic from Henry Nouwen, who was a great Catholic mystic and teacher. And it's one of those quotes I call a spiritual gut punch, because I knew it was exactly what I needed to hear and didn't want to hear it either. He says, every morning, alone or in the company of others, I spend at least 1 hour in quiet prayer and meditation. I say every morning, but there are exceptions. Fatigue, busyness, and preoccupation often serve as argument for not praying. Yet without this 1 hour a day for God, my life loses its coherence, and I start experiencing my day as a series of random incidents and accidents rather than divine appointments and encounters, right? And aren't you sick of the random incidents, right? Don't we want to have that experience of divine appointment where no matter what's going on, that we're fully present to what's there, and the world doesn't seem to be falling apart, or even if it is, there's something in us holding it together and holding ourselves together. Self-care isn't participation trophies, right? It's not about saying no to your commitments. It's not about no longer being accountable. Self-care is hard-working self-love. Self-care is hard-working self-love. But when you can do it and work on it and really commit to it, you can really experience a change in your life that's so dramatic that it begins to really feel that life is working for you and not against you. So can we say the mantra again? Self-care or else? Self-care. Very good. One more time. Self-care or else. And so when you're interacting this year and someone asks you to go to Home Depot because they think you can build them a shed, what do you say to yourself? Self-care or else. When someone wants you to watch the kids and you love watching the kids and you know you can do it, but you know you're about to break, self-care or else. Whatever the opportunity, say that mantra to yourself and see if it can help you make those greater, higher choices for yourself. And so I need to take better care of myself. That's part of why I'm here. Right? So I'm here to make some commitments. I'm going to invite you to make them too for 2022. And Marjorie and team, it's good to think about these for the church too, as you're taking care of yourself, because the church is kind of a living organism. You know, you want to take care of it in that way. So commitment 1 is I will no longer seek to escape my life for self-care, but I will seek to make my life an example of self-care. I will no longer cease to escape my life for self-care, but I will seek to make my life an example of self-care. Does that make sense? How many of us look at our calendars going, where can I get out of this life? Right? Where can I escape? Where can I run off to? And then all of a sudden the dates are all gone and you feel trapped. Or if you do find them, you might be like me. This is an embarrassing confession, but I really stink at vacation. Anyone here relate to that? You get a 4-day vacation and it's finally night 3 and I finally start to relax, but then I have to go back to work the next day, right? So it's one thing to try and unplug and get into another way of life. It's another thing to say, each and every day of my life, I have to take care of myself. And until I learn to do that, my life isn't going to have that resonance, that vibrancy, and that vitality that helps me be who I am. And so what each of us is called to do is to identify those everyday things we know will help us take care of ourselves. Do you know what they are for you? For me, it's 30 minutes in the morning to meditate, to pray, to write. I'll take more, but give me at least 30 minutes. Anyone else have one? Yes, Wenda. No matter what. Very good. Yes, in the back there. Deep breaths at red lights. I like that. It's much better than middle fingers to other cards. I'm going to try that. Yes. Oh, I love it. Oh, I'm going with you. Did I see a hand over here? Morning walks. Jan? Therapeutic reading, yeah. And so we all know Judy.
Walking with the dog while I'm meditating.
All right. So there's somebody. Dawn. I'm sorry? Long cuddles. Oh, can we get a collective? Oh, you found the right one, Florette. That is beautiful. So here's the thing. Those things that help you take care of yourself, it's one thing to say, yes, these are my goals. But it's another thing to say, this is the boundary that I'm going to insert in my life that helps me protect those goals, right? So think about what those goals are, but realize that without a good boundary, they're going to be difficult to achieve. You know, in the game of life, our yeses are our offense, right? Our yeses are our offense, and they help us get to the goals that we want. But our no's are our defense, right? And as great coaches will tell us, defense wins championships. And so for as much as you may know what those yeses are that are going to help you take good care of yourself, know what those no's are that help defend those yeses. It's the boundaries we may set for our partner. It's the help that sometimes we have to be willing to ask for. It's the ability to really check in with ourselves and journal and to say, how am I really doing at this goal? And when we do that, we begin to build that foundation that helps us move into a successful rest of our lives. So identify the thing you want to do, the boundary that you need, and lastly, if you really want to take this seriously, the time that it's going to take to do it, so that you can really schedule your self-care time, because there's a big switch that happens when that takes place. The second commitment is really hard for me. It's I will turn escapism into mindfulness, turning wasted time into sacred time. I know that's kind of long, but it's I will turn escapism into mindfulness, turning wasted time into sacred time. I actually get a little concerned when I hear someone say, I just want to turn off, right? I just want to unplug. There's something about that doesn't sound right to me, and I get what people mean, but I don't want to turn off, I want to turn on. I don't want to unplug, I want to plug in, and I get getting away from the rat race of life for a minute, but I really want to tune in to who I am. And so one of the things that I have to do is I have to take an honest look at what I do with my free time. Every one of us here has free time, some more than others, I understand. But what am I doing with that free time? And too often, especially during the pandemic, I found myself doing activities because I wanted to numb out, right? Because I wanted to not think. I'll watch one Netflix show, 10 later, right? I'm in zombie mode. Like I was saying before, I'm just going to watch the news for 5 minutes, and I get really into them screaming at one another, right? A celebratory glass of wine that can turn into 3 or 4, and before you know it, you're not feeling good, right? There's lots of things that we can do to try and turn off, and I'm not saying we can't do them a little bit or do them with consciousness, but it's a lot different than doing things that are going to create mindfulness. And I'm like that. You take a walk. Josh, why would you take a walk? That's not going to make you any money, right? That's not going to do any material good for yourself. Journal? You're too boring to journal. What do you need to know about yourself? So we'll actually try and defend against doing these things that build mindfulness, but what they do is they plug you in. What they do, even though there might be a part of your mind that tells you it's going to exhaust you even more, it's going to re-energize you because you're going to rediscover yourself and begin to bring it back to life. So if you can even take 20% of the time that you put in escapism and put it into mindfulness, I think you will find some real change taking place. I love something that Wayne Muller put in his book Sabbath, a book that Reverend Peggy gave me when I started here, as well as Wayne Nickerson, who was a wonderful congregant here for a long time. He says, when we live without listening to the timing of things, when we live and work in 24-hour shifts without rest, we are on wartime, mobilized for battle. Yes, we are strong and capable people. We can work without stopping. Faster and faster, electric lights making artificial day so the whole machine can labor without ceasing. But remember, no living thing lives like this. There are greater rhythms that govern how life grows, circadian rhythms, seasons and hormonal cycles, and sunsets and moonrises, and great movements of seas and stars. We are part of the creation story, subject to all its laws and rhythms. And that's part of my commitment to mindfulness this year, is just for every busy event, I want to weave in a moment of stillness, right? For everything I have to do, I want to weave in just being a little bit more. And how can I bring that resonance to life so I feel that I possess my life as opposed to just feeling that it's possessing me and moving me around, right? The final commitment is I will let self-care take care of it. I will let self-care take care of it. Sorry to be like a school teacher, but will you say this one with me? This one's the most important one. I will let self-care take care of it. Did you know that taking a day off from work can heal your relationship? Did you know that taking a nice long walk can give you an answer to a problem that you've been struggling with for months and months? Did you know just sleeping in can heal your body and your mind? It's amazing what self-care can do. A little bit of love for ourselves, a little bit of love for ourselves, a little bit of healthy selfishness can help us go so far into living the life that we want, and yet self-care is so often the first thing to go when we get busy. But remember that self-care is often not just the thing we're looking for, but it's the solution to so many of our difficulties. There's a quote that I love from the great Lucille Ball, and it's been wonderful to see the Lucille Ball resurgence this year in the movies and things like that. It's also wonderful because it makes me think of our longtime administrator, Julie Guerrero, who just loved I Love Lucy, who passed away last year. So she would have loved, I would have loved to hear her thoughts on the movie that came out. And such a wonderful person, along with Margie Clark, probably the longest tenured employees here at Seal Beach Church for so long. And so good to see you, Reverend Margie. But, every Lucille Ball, I Love Lucy episode is the same thing, right? It's the same formula. Lucy gets bright idea. Lucy is unequipped to bring said idea about, and hilarity ensues, right? So, she wants to sell the Vita Vegemin. She gets drunk, and we poop out at parties and pop out, whatever it is. She wants to be Superman for little Ricky's birthday party. She gets stuck up on the ledge, right? The conveyor belt with the chocolate moves too much. And so it's this aspect where she has great ideas, but she's not taking care of herself to do that. And so I love this quote. I find it so ironic because she said it a little later in life. She said, I have a simple religion that works for me. Take care of yourself, and everything else falls into line. I have an everyday, simple religion that works for me. Take care of yourself, and everything else falls into line. That's a profound quote, isn't it? And Lucille Ball, she was actually kind of a student of New Thought. She was a big supporter of Norman Vincent Peale's Power of Positive Thinking. And there was a little book back in the day called The Art of Selfishness that was really popular at the time. My wife says that should be my memoir, but and she doesn't mean it in a nice way. But out of that, she says kind of powerfully. She says, whenever I make a decision, I say, is this good for Lucy? Does it fill my needs? Is it good for my health, my peace of mind? Does my conscience agree? Does it give me a spiritual lift? You know, what a good set of questions when we're asked to do something that maybe we're not sure we want to do, or about to step into a new way of work, or about to choose a new minister for your center. Is this good for me? Does it fill my needs? Is it good for my health, my peace of mind? Does my conscience agree? Does it give me a spiritual lift? And recognizing, too, when we can love ourselves first and care for ourselves, everything else can fall into line. So again, the three commitments as we close. Seek not to escape your life for self-care, but seek to make your life an example of taking great care of yourself every day. Turn escapism into mindfulness, turning your wasted time into sacred time that will create these eternal moments that will live on within you and give you all the energy that you need. And let self-care take care of it. Just think right now, what can I do right now or in this day to take better care of who I am? And who knows, it may begin to provide you everything that you need. And so taking a deep breath with me if you choose. Let's just move to that place in that center where there is no difference between us, where we touch the oneness and unity of everything, and yet the very wellspring of our uniqueness and our creativity. Knowing these bonds of the heart, this endless wellspring of well-being comes from a spirit that is connected with an infinite source. I know as we live from this source, it grows and expands like wildfire in our lives. With deeper awareness and deeper love, we receive that tsunami warning of grace, of well-being, and of spiritude that helps lift us up in all that we do. And so it is. Amen. Thanks for having me here, everybody.